Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakak, Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, especially the 144,000, consisting of the Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as a special bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. You can probably hear my nose is a little bit blocked. I've been a bit unwell, and I've also been through some other particular events in the last few days. But anyway, in the last few days, obviously, I had, like I've explained before, I've been having like these different revelations, and then I've had many, if you like, since 2018. But they're increasing in how often they come. It's starting to happen more and more often, closer together. And then within the last 5 weeks or so, they've become very revealing to the point then where you start to see things you never even knew you could actually see as a human. And so, people, like, you got these scientists and science fiction, all that shit, and they'll talk about parallel universe. But that's, I don't know, I can't prove it, I can't disprove it, but it's as much as Esau talks about it, parallel universes, it's pretty much a pipe dream, because you don't know if it exists or it doesn't exist. But what we do know, according to the scriptures, is that, we are regenerated through the Spirit. And ultimately what there are is parallel lifetimes. So, like, for example, people have these deja vu moments, or, you go through events that you went through in a previous life. Like, we believe that Donald Trump is Nero, and, he's a, what would you call it? Like and as Trump, he's a president. He's been a president, and as Nero, he was like a Caesar. So, pretty much the same thing. He's running things. So, what Donald Trump has, or Nero, or the spirit of that particular person, that's like a parallel lifetimes. And then he may say, maybe when he's young, I feel like I should be in a royal seat. We all feel like something, don't we? Some people feel like they should be making music. Some people feel like they should have been famous. All these things that go through your mind. And so you then think of, like, for example, the prophets, the true prophets. Forget all the false ones just for a minute. What I'm saying is really only directed to a very small group of people, because only a very small group of people will get it, will understand it, will actually get it. And so those people aren't really walking in the shoes of the prophets, they're walking in their own shoes. And so, then you go into this thing like about free will. So if, you can choose, like, for example, a prophet knows so much, but yet he knows so little. A prophet can tell you how the kingdom is going to end in 2 years, 50 years, 100 years, but he doesn't know what he's going to have for breakfast in 3 days' time. And so, you then have a free will to a certain degree, because you could wake up that day and eat pork, abominable food, and you could get punished for it, judged for it. You may not necessarily get put to death for certain particular crimes, but for example, adultery is a you should be put to death according to the Most High. That does happen. It definitely happens, because I could witness it, but I don't want to go into that. But also, the Most High might just choose to judge you in a different way. So there's all these types of things. So there is a free will in that type of sense, but then there's no free will in what walk you walk, or what steps you take. You might, you might want to be one thing in your life, but you might think, oh, I want to be a musician, or I want to be this or that, but then you'll end up doing something else. And then people say, oh, I fell into this, or this happened, and because I met that guy and it changed my world. No. It's already programmed. You just walk through the maze of life thinking you're this brand new person exploring all these things in the world, but really the route has been set out for you. So you just go along the route, but then that's what we call life. Oh, I went to that guy and he changed my life, and I went to that guy and he did this and that, and then now I ended up here. I used to do this and now I don't. It's pretty much just a game that we play. The Most High set us up, but we don't know we're playing it. But then the Most High can reveal stuff to you, and now you know you're a figure, if you like, you're a part of the game. Now that's quite important to understand. It's very important to understand, because we're at the point of where we believe this is Jacob's trouble starting, to a certain degree. We're definitely not in the thick of it. We've still got to see the implementation of the MOTB, which is the real peak, highlight, destructive, if you like, judgmental point of it. But then, you've got the build up to that. You've got the destruction, World War III, so on and so forth. So, but we are definitely at the beginning. You see all these troubles. We've got this election. I mean, how long can we go on for? I haven't actually watched anything for the last 5 days, or looked out into the world, because of obviously what's happened with me. I've kind of been in this next zone. I'll go into that in a minute, but it's not hard to work out what's going on. So knowing that it's the beginning of Jacob's trouble, then you have to consider, for example, here, Isaiah 59:19. It says, so shall they fear the name of Yahweh from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. It says here, when the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of Yahweh shall lift up a standard against him. And so the true prophets would teach, the ones that are true prophets, they would teach, which they do, mainly the men of GMS and any affiliates teaching the same message. Maybe other, camps out there that teach that, but then break other things down wrong, so we start to have question marks. But those that really understand, what that means, would then say, well, when the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of Yahweh shall lift up a standard against him. So we expect a standard, spiritual power. The Lord says here, the Lord shall lift up a standard against him, against the enemy. And the enemy's Esau. You've got, you coming in like a flood. You got Matthew chapter 24. You go back to 70 AD, 66, 67 AD, and then you go to, but you also have Jacob's trouble. See, the enemy shall come in like a flood. You're going to have people put into these martial law camps, told you got to take this device. If you don't, he'll cut you out of the system. This is Jacob's trouble. This is what we've been describing. We know it to a T, and it's here. We're on the doorstep. So, so my point is, you then have to consider, because we don't know who's who, and we believe the Spirit's on us as individuals. There's more people preaching this word than actually have the Holy Spirit on them. I don't know what the percentage is or the numbers. But for example, if you take all the prophets in America speaking in the name of, say, Israel, definitely not 100% of them are true prophets, because a lot of them don't call them the true name, for example. So then my point is, you go back to these true prophets, and everyone will say, the hopeful elect, whoever the hopeful elect are, I hope I'm the elect, you hope you're of the elect, so on and so forth. But when the standard, when the Most High lifts up a standard, you're not going to stand there with spiritual power and say, I'm of the hopeful elect. because what happens now, you see, you go back into what I mentioned on another video. You have a crossover period. Everybody likes to laugh when you talk about conspiracy. Oh, hidden societies. Oh, yeah. Some people believe it, some people don't. More and more people are waking up. At some point, they will establish the MOTB. So at some point, it's the whole talk of conspiracy theory is in the trash. It's in the bin. It's just finished. It's finished. Never talk about it again. Here you go. The government have asked you to put a device under your skin. Everybody's going to know they've been tracked. They're going to take it because they want money and they want to continue their lives. But, that whole thing of conspiracy, is there a hidden society? That's going to be put right in your face. And everybody's going to know, oh, the governments are connected. You see, at the minute, people fight for the right in their country because they think their government owns that particular, or, runs that particular nation. No, you have a one world government. So when everybody in the world gets the device under the skin, everybody's going to realize, oh, it's a one world government. So there you have that crossover period. And then you have a crossover period for us. Those that are believing in the truth, those that are hopeful elect. And so at some point, somebody out there who's saying, oh, I'm, of the hopeful elect, is going to actually have to show that standard. The Most High is going to lift up the standard, and he's going to do it through his prophets. So, we're getting close to that time. This is the kind of point I'm trying to make. We're getting close to that time where things switch over, and then you start to look back at everything. It's almost like a mirror effect. You look at yourself and you look back and you think, wow, this is double. It's sometimes I say, oh, you're living a double life because in your mind, the truth, how the world is really working, why it's set up the way it is. And you also have another life in your mind where you deal with the people of the world because they don't understand this. So you deal with your family, but then while you're dealing with your family, doing worldly things, in your mind, you're also contemplating the actual meaning of things. So you're with your family and they're going, oh, why did he die? Blah, blah, blah. And they're crying and you're helping them out and they're getting upset. But in your mind, you're saying, well, the Most High judged him because he did this or he did that. And so to you, the answers are clear. It's a whole different concept and you can't always explain it to these people. So then you keep it to yourself. And then herein lies the double life you're living. But it goes deeper than that because you're living multiple lives at once. I'd like to say 3. You can, if the Most High might open up your eyes for you to see 3, but really we're living multiple lives. But we're living them in the same steps. You may be at a different altitude, at a different geographical point, but you're going to go through similar events that you went through purely because your shoes went in that direction. It's like we say, oh, if you was a singer in your previous life, you're going to be a singer in your next life. But it goes deeper than that. If you was a duet singer or a solo singer in your previous life, you'll probably be a duet or solo singer in your next life. Now, not everything matches 100%. Sometimes there are variations. So, I might, maybe like you're hearing me and just thinking, what's this guy going on about? If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's not really, I'm not really too fussed. I can only explain what I'm trying to explain. I'm trying to explain it the best way I can, if you've got to read between the lines. So, but in the last few days, I had like I say, a lot of revelation and again brought back to me. And so the whole concept of my understanding grows. And initially, what's happened to me, I'll go into it in a minute, but what happened to me over the last 4 or 5 days, I was fuming, I was angry, I went through a whole range of emotions, trying to deal with the situation. I knew in the back of my mind it was in the scriptures, and then when I went to the scriptures, it changes your I still have the same outlook, but it takes away the anger to a certain degree. So then I went through, particular scriptures on Sunday. I was coughing and sneezing and all that, and I'll leave it till tomorrow. And then yesterday I was going to do it. I went through Acts chapter 22 to 28 a couple of times on Sunday. And then I thought I'll leave the video till the morning. But then when I woke up in the morning on Monday, I went through 13 to 21. And then Spirit wasn't on me to make the video. And then today the Spirit is on me to make the video. So finally, you may think, oh, finally you've got around to making the video. But it's when the Spirit's on me. Because the reason why the Spirit delayed me is because before I made this video, just about an hour ago, before I made this video, somebody sent me a message. And so it falls straight in line with the lesson. So now I go, okay, so this is why you kind of put the Spirit on me not to bother with it Sunday, Monday. And now we're Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Yeah, we're Tuesday. Tuesday night, at 2:00 in the morning. So there's a guy I know, and this is the person. This is the only picture I could find off the internet. And what he did this on the 13th of August. You can see here, 13th of August, 3:54. He goes, but yo, I keep noticing the number 33 for like a month now. Every time I look at the clock, it's 33 minutes past. I mean, it's happening freakishly. Often like 5 times a day, even if I play FIFA on PlayStation. If I look at the clock, it will be 33 minutes or some minutes and 33 seconds. He says, check this, Arsenal, that's his football team. They bought a new signing, it's called Calafiori. His new number is 33. So he said, anything in that? And then, so that's on the 13th of August, like a week later, he sent me this again. Look, turned on Insta, this came up 33. Now, I kind of laughed, because obviously I know why he's asking me, but I don't really have the answer. And I said to him that basically something about you is significant. That number means something. But I said, look, he's a good friend of mine, so I've known him for a long time. But I haven't seen him since 2020, what happened in 2020, that situation. And then now what, things change, and then you like work patterns, this, that. For me, if I got free time, I'm pretty much stuck in the scriptures. So then, obviously I hadn't seen him. But what happens every now and again, we talk by phone. And so this is what's happened, since August. He keeps coming back at me with this 33, and he did it again tonight. So he did it here on the 13th of August. And that revelation that I've explained before, I'm not going to mention what it is exactly, but if you remember, that particular one was around about the 3rd of... I only remember because certain other things were happening. I think that was around the 3rd of August. So I had that particular revelation about myself, and then I was kind of, lost deep in thought. Meanwhile, I've got this person say to me, yo, 33, what's this mean? And I'm going, look, I don't know. I don't know. Like, you have to work out, you have to see the signs for yourself. Obviously something, I don't know. And then, so at some point, I did have in the back of my head who this particular person was. The week before he sent me this, I had an idea of who he was, but I didn't when he sent me this message, I didn't bother to look at it, because I had so much other things to look at. It was kind of like low down my priority list. So like I say, then he'd come around again, 33 again. I ain't really spoke to him again all month, 5-6 weeks. And then today he's hit me up again. He goes, look, this is happening again. And he goes, what's going on? And so obviously the instinct that I had the week before he sent it to be the first time when I had the revelation, I thought, well, I'll just double check it. Because we know these scriptures, but like I always say, I always forget the numbers. I more remember the words. So I went to the numbers, what I thought in the first place, and I said, yeah, this guy is in Acts chapter 16. So he is basically, verse 33, it says, even at that hour of the night, the jailer cared for them and washed their wounds. Then he and everyone in his household were immediately baptized. Now, you know what it is? When I first had the vision 6.5 years ago, I was bugged out before I found the Hebrew Israelites. I'm trying to work it out. The spirits show me things. I know there's a higher power, but I don't really get what's going on. And he's the first person that actually I told and actually believed me. And so what it is, no one else did at that time. I think that was after I had the vision in what was it, like January, and then only in the summer when I spoke to him around May, June or something, and he was the first person that actually got it. And I told him, look, this, that, that, that's why you, and he couldn't believe it. He said to me, because I look East Indian, you know, when you look at me, I look East Indian. Obviously his dad's Dominican, his mum's Jamaican, so he was baffed. He was like, how can someone who's so-called Asian tell me of my heritage? And I said, because I am the same heritage and you just didn't know it. And now I know it, I've told you. So he took that on board, and I did kind of like, I'll be honest, it bugged me because it's been how many years now. Sometimes I think to myself, you know, why don't you get to the scriptures a bit more? But I know he believes on the Most High, Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushai. He knows those names. You know, I send him videos, he watches them. You know, different people's videos, whatever else. But it kind of did bug me in the back of my mind for a long time, thinking, I want everybody to be like me. So I expect you to be like on at least on my enthusiasm. Have at least my enthusiasm. If you've got lower, then I'm a bit like, if you've got the level of me or more, then I'm kind of cool with you. But obviously he's my mate, so I'm kind of like, why can't he get anyone else? Just like, I fuck him off. If you don't get it, you don't get it. Just bounce. But like I say, I've been having all these different revelations. I work certain things out, and then I can start to look around me at people and start to pick them out in the scriptures. And then so you look at their life now, and then you look at their life back then, and you go, okay, you kind of go through the same motions, but sometimes you do it in a certain way. It's your walk, but you're in a different geographical location, so on and so forth. So when you read about the jailer, for example, the jailer called for the lights and ran to the dungeon and fell down trembling before Paul and Silas. Actually, I should have really started up here. Yeah, suddenly, Acts 16:26 is NLT, because I'm going through quite a few chapters today, so I'm just kind of like hitting the point. It's all historical accounts, so the language isn't really going to put us off too much. Acts 16:26, suddenly there was a massive earthquake, and the prison was shaken to its foundations. All the doors immediately flew open, and the chains of every prisoner fell off. So that was divine intervention. It says the jailer woke up to see the prison doors wide open. So he woke up, so you fell asleep on the job, you're getting paid and you fell asleep. It says he assumed the prisoners had escaped, and so, for that mistake, it says here, so he drew his sword to kill himself. It says, but Paul shouted to him, stop, don't kill yourself, we are all here. It says the jailer called for the lights and ran to the dungeon and fell down trembling before Paul and Silas. Then he brought them out and asked, sirs, what must I do to be saved? It says they replied, believe in Lord Yahushai, and you will be saved, along with everyone in your household. It says, and they shared the word of the Lord with him and with all who lived in his household. Even at the hour of the night, the jailer cared for them and washed their wounds. Then he and everyone in his household were immediately baptized. And obviously, up until John the Baptist, you had the baptism in water, but obviously the new baptism is within the Holy, having the Holy Ghost. That means the Spirit's on him, and he's a believer. So he's, you know, if that jailer was back here today, you'd expect him to be delivered. And so it starts to make sense, because now you start to understand why you're saying, you know, start reading, start getting into the scriptures, come and read for me. But that's not his thing. His thing is to believe, and he believes. And so, you know, that, Lord willing, should have him, you know, baptized in this time. So he's gone through the same motion, but you know, at one point, you know, he's in one geographical location. Now he's in a different geographical location. I did get arrested with him a few years back, and me and him were both in different cells. And I was, you know, you're thinking, okay, that's it. You get arrested, police station. They keep you there for 24 hours. They charge you, take you to court in the morning, and then they chuck you in Wormwood or Wormwood Scrubs or wherever. But me and him got out because they opened the door. From our point of view, we're sitting in the cell. I'm sitting in the cell, and they open the door, and they go, you can go. We're like, what? And they didn't tell me why I can go, and I'm you know, scratching my head, signing the paperwork, looking around. They're giving me all my stuff back, and then, you know, all all the bits they took off you, your phone, your keys, your whatever. And then I went outside, and then I saw him, and I said, you know, I saw Cornell, and I said to him, why, you know, what did they do? And he basically, turns out that they found out who his brother was. The police found out who his brother were, and his brother's known. He's known for, how can I say it, you know, politely, he's known for not stopping when the police want to pull him over. And then, you know, he'll go around on a chase, he'll debunk the car, and he'll pop shots. So he had a certain lifestyle, and he was so much trouble to them. Imagine that. And we're talking like what, mid 2000s. So you're only talking like 20 years ago. He was so much trouble to them that and we're in a completely different area to where he lives, but they didn't want to go to his house, because obviously they, you know, when they arrested us, they were supposed to go to our houses and do a search and all this kind of stuff. And when they found it, they said, nah, they just said leave. They just let us go. And so you look at the jailer, and he's, you know, been involved in a miraculous event surrounding being arrested, like he was in a previous life, but it's slightly different. Yet being baptized in the Holy Spirit happened in his previous life, and it, you know, pretty much happens now. So that's the same, but again, they happened in slightly different scenarios, you see. So what Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai has done ultimately to the jailer, he take the events of the jailer and mix them up a little bit in a new life. You still go through the events, but you might go through them in different orders. So he's still involved in a miraculous event surrounding being locked up, still involved in an event which ultimately has got him baptized in the Holy Spirit. He's a believer in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. So, but they happen in slightly different ways. And so, you see, so then you start to see, like I said, it's not a double life that we live, knowing the truth, but dealing with people who don't know the truth. They tell you, why did this die and why did that die? You know in your mind, but you can't tell them. But then there's a third life. So you can see, so if your eyes are open, you've got 1, 2, and then a third life in your mind. And so they're running along the same course. And then to try and take all that into account when you're living your daily routine, it's it's a lot to take on. It's not too much to take on. The Most High will only allow you to understand if you've got the capability to do it. So that's why I say this video is only really made for certain particular people. But so now you can see sort of 3 consecutive lives running alongside each other. You've got him living a life, for example, in the world. He goes out to work, he has to meet and greet Edomites, this, that, and the other. He comes home, he's watching his videos, he believes as a Hebrew Israelite. He's told his wife, Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Hawashai, so on and so forth. Told his kids, told all the kids, and taught them the name and everything else. So that's a life, and a separate life that he can't actually tell them at work. So it's two lives. But then, if his eyes were open, he'd then see the third life. And so that's why, end of the day, who gave him that 33? Who's giving him the 33? Who's giving it to him? Yahweh Ba'ashim Hawashai. Why is he giving it to him since August? Why didn't he come to me last year, or the year before, the year before that? Because, obviously, of what I understand. And so the moment I tried to make this particular video, I get presented with the information. This time I actually said, okay, I'm going to check the verse. And I checked the verse 33. And there you go. So that's the only picture I could find. He performs, he works full time, but from the olden days, he still has a certain ability on. So in London, there's like an underground scene. You're not super famous, you're not super rich, but you can go out there and you get bookings. So he'll just do things every now and again. But that's what you're looking at. If you look at him there, that's pretty much the jailer. And he's known for falling asleep. His dad is a spitting image of him, and he's also known for falling asleep. You have a get together, like a kid's birthday party in the daytime. Loads of people, 30, 40 people, all go around to a house, and go around to his house for a kid's birthday party, middle of the afternoon. By 4 o'clock, you look for his dad. He's sitting on the sofa in the corner asleep. And so the same, and obviously he's got that trait off his dad. I mean, so I've known this guy for a long time, and when we were young, we used to go to do a lot of music stuff together. And so we'd go out all night and come back to our house come back to my house, maybe 3-4 of us at 5 a.m. He'll crash out on the sofa. So I'll wake me up at 10 o'clock, I'll go get to work. We're like, yeah, cool. You can't wake this guy up. You can't wake him up. I've been there more times than I can remember. Cornell, wake up. We're looking at each other. Me and 2 other people looking at each other. Looking at him crashed out. This guy ain't waking up. He don't wake up. You open the curtains, you open the light, you put the TV on. He's still asleep. So, you see, the Most High is, if he's going to program something into you, he's going to program something into you. These people trying to change themselves and do this and that and that. You can't really change yourself. The Most High makes you what you are. Yeah. So, that's that one. But what I really wanted to go to is, what was I going to go to? This one I wanted on 13. But I wanted to start at 22. It's Acts chapter 22. And I've explained, so you had the Day of Atonement last Wednesday evening to Thursday evening. And the Day of Atonement is about, if you like, suffering in a carnal sense, in a flesh sense, in the world, in what you see around you, because of the fact that you believe in something that you can't see. You have faith in Yahweh Ba'ashim Hawashai. That's basically the nuts and bolts of what you did on the Day of Atonement. And so what that does is, the reason why the Most High asks you to do that is because you then have a spiritual increase. And so that I've explained before, that kind of process has gone on for me throughout the last 7 months. Since I had the vision in 2018, I had this 3 times. I had the first time for 1.5 years. And I cut my hand and all that kind of stuff. I was working with the spirit. And then everything went back to normal for a bit. And then I had another period where it was 7 months. And it went back to normal for a couple of years. And then now I had another period. and it's 7 months, but it's stretching on it into 8. The first period part was 18, a year and a half, 18 months, plus 7 months, that's 25, plus another 7, 8 so far. So 25 plus 8 is 33. 3 years is like 36. So anyway, I've explained before, so when I have these times, that's when I increase. You see, between that, I watched the Elder Apostles of GMS, and I tried to learn. They say go to this scripture, go to that one, and you're learning it, and you put them together, you piece them together. But then, by receiving the revelation, I step back and I look at it, and I see a whole other thing. Now, I've explained that a few times in the last few weeks, and so what happened to me in the last few days, you kind of step back even further and have a deeper look because of the events that are happening. And then you start to realize what's going on. The reason why I mentioned the Day of Atonement, because my issue started then. And I've explained before what happened to me at work last summer. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, people just started coming into my workplace and kicking off in front of me. And like one of them people was called Bilal. One of them is a he, she. And one of them was a woman who thinks, in my face as if she's going to try and fight me. And I'm looking at her like, I'll break your neck. You need to step back. But what happens when you're at work in a uniform, these people, all of a sudden the big bad them comes out. But when you go on the street and you put your hood up, all of a sudden they cross the road. So anyway, that kind of stuff happens. And that's what I've explained before. You may think I'm going on a bit, but it's going to make a lot of sense very soon. So this happened to me from June to December last year. Everything just started going horribly wrong. By December, I said to my manager, look, something's not right and something's going to happen. I don't know what, but I know. By January, I got suspended. She didn't want me to get suspended, but it seems like every other fucker did. So she said to me, I'll get you back in a month. I'll get you back in here. I said, you won't. I said, I didn't tell her, obviously, all this stuff to do with the spirit, but in my mind, I'm thinking, nah, because I knew what was about to happen. The Most High isolates me. And then I start to lose out, for example, on overtime. So now I'm living on borderline, which I've been doing for 7 months. And then, your brain starts to trip out. You get revelations. Your brain's occupied in the scriptures. You're not doing nothing else. And then you don't eat, you don't sleep. And then you're just in a whole cycle. And that's what I've been in for 7 months. And what that is it's like a one long Day of Atonement. Because what you're doing is everything I was doing last year is the opposite to what I'm doing this year. And it's almost like you're wasting away, but what I'm doing is I'm just kind of trying to stay stuck in the scriptures. The more revelation you get, the more you go into it. And then obviously, so I've explained before, I've been waiting for this response from work. They said, look, you've got this history of complaints, all these complaints keep coming in, we're going to investigate it, we'll come and speak to you again. I said, cool. And they came in May, they asked me about it. I said, look, I don't know what exactly you're going to try and punish me for because I haven't actually done anything wrong in those situations. And I kind of broke it all down and blah, blah, blah. And they went, yeah, cool. We're going to do some more investigation. We'll come back to you. And then now they came back to me. They came back to me on the Day of Atonement, on Thursday. And then what they showed me was they said, look, we're going to have this disciplinary meeting now on the 25th. And we're sending you the investigation pack. So I'm thinking, what? How are you going to discipline me? Like, what the fuck's going on? So I got this pack on this investigation folder on Friday. And I basically fucking went ballistic because what I've realized from reading it and realizing it and making connections and connecting dots, what I've realized is that the people working next to me have basically got people to come in and create those problems while they're there. And then so when I'm saying that this happened and that happened, they're saying something else. They're saying the same thing that the person who complained in the complaint says. But he said this and that. I said, I never said that. But then I've got people now apparently next to me who said I have said that because I've got their statements written down in front of me. So I'm, okay, so you people are supposed to be on my side, But what you've done is you've got your people to come in on the front desk and create these problems. And then this is why my manager was unaware of it, because she don't know what's going on. And I know why they're doing it. It's because she throws me all the overtime. The reason why she throws me the overtime, because she says, because they don't fucking turn up when I give it to them. So there's this like issue going on. And what it is as well, ultimately, as my wife keeps reminding me, is that because you're working with women, and they're fucking, a lot of them are twisted in the head. So anyway, even to the point now, I'm reading through these statements. One of them is even tried to say that I'm like trying it with her. You know what that means? I'm trying it with her, and because she refuses it and all that, I then call in her names all the time, like sexually orientated names, shall I say? And I was fucking blew my nut. I wanted to snap someone in half. And so what it is, you see, then from there, you then have like this huge realization that I've obviously, in the worldly part, I've now got to do a couple of things. I've either got to go and defend myself in this thing, or I've got to look for another job. But they want to do this disciplinary thing next week, and I ain't got another job lined up. And then you realize the depths of how these people have gone to lie and how they set it up. And that makes me want to break people's necks, because the bottom line is I'm not really like all that. I go to work, I do my thing, I come home, and I'm at home as much as I can be so that I can be in the scriptures. Even to the point where I showed it to my wife, and she just laughed it off, and I said, what the fuck? When you see what this girl looks like who made this fucking claim, she's got a top lip like fucking Daffy Duck, no fucking backside, and you think that I'm gonna chase you, but because she's like, I don't know, you know what these women do, they just play that sweet pie. They can be vulnerable when they want to be, but they can be the big boss bitch when they want to be. See, a man, as soon as you're a boss, you're toxic, but you're allowed to be vulnerable. So that's why men out there, all the 90% of men in the world are pretty much pom-poms. Can't light a fire, can't start nothing, can't hold it up for themselves, because they're of the way of the world. So anyway, so that's cool. I got to this realization that basically what I'm going to do is I can go and defend myself, but I ain't going to bother. I'm just going to bounce. I'm going to go somewhere else. I got to this point where I'm throwing up curses, and I'm using their names. I'm throwing up the curses in Hebrew, and I'm purposely adding people's names in there. So, I kind of got vexed with it, but at the same time I said I need to kind of move quickly to save myself. And then so what it is, because like I say, I've got two options. I could go there and try and defend it, because you know what these people do, you see, they play friend to your face, but then they go and tell these investigators, oh no, he's a problem. But I've got SMS messages from you when I have, you work with people, so you message people all the time. Can you help me cover for me tonight? Yeah, I'll cover you. Yeah, thanks a lot, blah blah blah. So I could just go there and print out these messages and say, well, they're telling you there's a problem, but these messages show a different thing. But it's just all murky. And like I say, bottom line is, there's too many demons in there. It is a hospital, and there's a hell of a lot of demons in the hospital. Also, when the MOTB comes, they'll probably make government people take it. It was just a comfortable job because, it's got good shift patterns, so on and so forth. But fuck that. So that was Friday. And then, so when I woke up on Saturday, before I could get into the scriptures, before I could make a video and all that kind of stuff, I thought I was still vexed, I feel still angry. And so I said I need to basically sort myself out real quickly. So I spent all day made a CV, and then I made another CV, because you got to kind of if you're creative, you can sell yourself on different skills. So I won't say anything more on that. So I created 2 CVs on Sunday, and I said to my wife, because people who know me know I can do cash jobs, I can fix their cars, I can fix up their houses. So, as well as trying to get a CV to look for full-time work, I'm trying to look for cash jobs. I've got a mortgage and I've got a child to feed. So, and if they take me to the disciplinary on the 25th, I got no income to pay my bills on the 1st of November. So kind of got to jump into action. I did that. I said to the wife, ring your friends and tell them, because they're all women and they all want things done in their house, but none of them have got the fucking skills to do it. So ring them and see what's going on. And it turns out that one of her friends said that her husband needs help, might need some help here and there. Doing what? He's basically a tent. I was gonna say tent maker. He basically puts up marquees, which is basically a big tent. So now going through all this motion on Friday, Saturday, ringing around, I get one response back. Yeah, I might need some help banging up these tents. So come down tomorrow, Sunday, and so Sunday now I find myself. Sunday was a nice day. It was warm. I find myself 7:00 in the morning standing in a field, pulling down a fucking huge tent, and then you got to laugh at yourself. You have to laugh at yourself, and you think to yourself, it's kind of like, how did I end up here? But you know why you're here. You're here because that's what you do. So he helped me out. He gave me the day to see what it's like. It was kind of alright. So he gave me some cash, but he said obviously the work's a bit inconsistent. He'll ring me when he can. So that's kind of one option. And then when I came on Sunday, I just carried on with the CVs. I think I've hit up about 9 different things. What I then need to do, everything I'm saying is going to make sense in a minute. So then what I had to do, so I've got in touch with him, got one feedback that was from the tent guy. I've pushed out 9 CVs into 9 different jobs. So I'm not just going for any old job. It's got to be a certain something, and then certain distance away. You can work for less if it's down the road, but if you're going to go a certain distance, it needs to be a certain wage so you can pay for the petrol and all that. So I've hit up a few, and then that's when on Sunday I started to read the scriptures, and then obviously my anger starts to disappear because I'm vexed. I'm vexed at the fact that there's people out there in this world who will do dirty, disgusting, conniving things just to fuck up a guy, but the guy ain't on nothing. Why doesn't no one go and fuck up Donald Trump or fucking kill Gates? But no, someone's doing it to you, and you've got your little fucking 9 to 5, and all you want to do is pay your bills. I'm ready to snap people's necks, but obviously the real thing to do is throw up the curses. So I went through that's what I've been through in the last 5 days, and then obviously I read the scriptures and the pattern of events. We all look in the scriptures and then we look for things. For example, Job, he loses a lot. Many people, Israelites in this truth, have lost things, and we all look at it and we say, we're going through the same motion as Job. So we do that as natural. But then when you look at all these crazy events all happening like that in such close proximity, it almost sounds confusing. It's like, tell me the story again. There's so much happening. And then you read that much, and then you realize I don't know. I still don't know. But I'm just telling you. That's all I'm going to do. So Sunday I went through the scriptures. Yesterday I went through a few more scriptures, and then today, like I say, Cornell, he sent me that message, and I said, okay, yeah. And you can hear my voice as well. So what happened on the Day of Atonement, I started to feel really unwell, because really I'm not really eating or sleeping properly consistently for the last few months anyway. So to push myself through the day without eating, kind of tipped me over the edge. But then it happens at the same time. You receive all that thing, and then you're blowing your nose, but you want to break people's necks, and you're reading stuff. You're thinking of 3 different lives in parallel. People texting me, 33. I'm trying to fucking get a CV out there. Some guy says you can come and help me. Come and help me. What you doing? I'm doing tents. Well, marquees, but marquees are big fucking tent. So that's my 5 days. I don't know any other way to address it, but that's what it is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bang through Acts chapter 22 to 28. I'm going to do it in the NLT because it's a lot easier, a lot quicker, and because I'm doing so many chapters. Also, like I said, it's historical, so it's not so important. We're not worrying about the Gentiles at the minute, and we're not going to worry too much about the meaning of words. More the pattern of events, the pattern. You know, like for example, Paul would deal with certain people today, if he was around, if Paul was here today. Like I'll give you an example, like so the true prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, they go on the streets, they go in the Agora. And that's what the scriptures say. And if we see them today, because they're programmed to, they will automatically, like I say, their feet, they're not the prophets today, the true prophets, whoever they are, they're not walking in the shoes of the prophets, they're walking in their own shoes. So their own feet will take them to the Agora, whether they like it or not. It will somehow persuade them to get there. They don't decide to go there, they're pre-programmed to do it. And then so then if you think of, like, for example, Apostle Paul, if Apostle Paul was out here today, also he'll be on the Agora. He was a prophet. No, he wouldn't, because he wasn't in the Agora. He was doing a different route. He was going through bullshit, basically, you know, understanding and generalizing the story. He gone through a lot of shit, going from A to B to B, A to B to C, but then every now and again he got to speak, and the next 2 days he might travel, and the next day he'll speak, the next couple of days he'll travel, and next couple of days he speaks. And what happens is, in between these little speaking parts, arriving at this place and that place and that place, he goes through a lot of bullshit, a lot of headache, a lot of drama. Still in the spirit still talks to him, guides him. You get like, I kind of, but you get to your limit, don't you? You get to your limit. Like that's what happened to me the other day. I'm like ill, and then I get this message that I've been waiting months for, and it's a lot worse than I realised. Then I find out people that I thought were cool with me at work. I mean, I don't go to work to make friends. Fucking hell, it's just work. But you go there, you're cool with people, and they're all nice to your face, but they're trying to set you up, and then you and like I say, being unwell at the same time, all that, then having to like start looking for work, panicking about have I got enough money to pay the bills. You know, I've got to start earning for the first of basically November. So all that takes you to a limit. And then you got the wife going, you've had 7 months to start looking for other things. And I said, yeah, but I never thought it was going to get this bad. Yeah, but you should have started looking. Yeah, but you don't understand why I'm isolated, because I'm receiving revelations. She don't get it, so I can't explain that to her. See, if the Most High wanted me to go and do something about this in February, March, April, he would have made me do it. But he didn't. He wanted me to sit still and listen, so I did. And that's why I know what I know. But she doesn't know what I know, and she's just looking at it calmly. And so what it is, all that, and looking at your child, looking at the mortgage, all this shit, takes you to your limit. Because you kind of think, yeah, you know what? Like, what is the purpose of all this? Like, there is a purpose, don't get me wrong. There is a purpose, but I'm just saying, there is a limit. And you sometimes, the hopeful elect are, refined like silver and gold. And so what happens? You get taken to the limit. But it's a limit that you can handle to sort of do certain things. And so what happened to me at that point, a couple of days ago, and then I started to think of Yahweh Shai, because when he let out the cry on the cross, that was a fucking limit. Because think about him now, and having that power, knowing what he could do to these punks, but he's got to let them do what they did to him. He's got to let them take it. It's like these people, they've done this shit to me at work, and I want to roll in that building, and I want to snap everybody's neck over my knee. Bang, bang, bang. But I can't. The world will try to stop me with the police and all this kind of stuff, and B, spiritually, in the time that we're in, that's not right. But you know what I said earlier, the Most High is going to very soon lift up a standard, so that people who are saying I'm hopeful, whoever they are, some of them at some point are going to say, nah, I'm that guy, and here's my spiritual power, because they're going to have to know how to use it and display it, whether it's in a powerful, destructive sense, or whether it's in a sense to produce food for other members of the elect during Jacob's trouble. So, knowing all that, knowing I want to break someone's neck, knowing I'm at the limit, that's when I throw out the curses. See, this is at the point where you realize, yes, these curses do have effect. You sit back and you say, well, I can't see that person. Is the curse really going to have effect? Yes, it will, because you read through the scriptures. You sort of see the events that these prophets, for example, I'm looking at Apostle Paul. You look at the events that he went through. We are the hopeful elect, and you go, well, if he's doing it, I can do it. So if you can call Satan, call Yahweh Hashem Yahushai to punish someone, break their bones, with death, destructions, and killings, then he can do it. And if you're like at that limit, like Yahushai was at his limit, if we're at that limit at certain points, there's absolutely nothing wrong of throwing up a curses, and just keep throwing them up. What the curse is an unreturnable weapon. You have weapons in this world. You have swords. You can return a sword. When someone jukes you with a sword, you can return it with another juk. They say don't take a sword to a gunfight because you can't return the sword as quick as the gun can fire. You can't return it. But for example, the most destructive weapon in the world is ICBM. You can send an ICBM and it will destroy the people you're sending it to, but they have half an hour to see it coming. In that half an hour, even though you're going to be destroyed, you can still return an ICBM. So an ICBM is a returnable weapon because you see it coming and you can return one back, even though you're about to be destroyed. Curses, demons, can't be returned. Just have a look at the nation of Israel, Deuteronomy chapter 28. Once they're put on you, you can't get rid of them unless the Most High decides to take them off you. So, the hopeful elect, if you believe you're of the hopeful elect, then you should be believing that at some point, very soon, Most High is going to raise up a standard in you, and you'll throw up curses and you'll see the effect instantly. So, if we're at the beginning of the Jacob's trouble, it's a good time, and you haven't done it yet, it's time to start sort of, if you like, get into that. But that's the real weapon to use. It's unreturnable. No one can punish you for it in this world. And, who knows what the Most High can do to them people. I've got 6 names. And I know all their names, 6 of them. And I'm calling on the Most High to bring curses to all of them. So, sorry if I bored you with my story. Let's give you the same story in the book of Acts. But what it is, it's, the people are worded differently. Now, for example, if Apostle Paul was here today, he might, for example, bump into the jailer, because he bumped into the jailer 2,000 years ago. He did that so he could, baptize him with the Holy Spirit. But for example, when you read, for example, Apostle Paul's, going around, and he had these incidences with Felix, the commander, this, that, and the other. What happens is those people might not necessarily come face to face with Paul. It depends on the Most High and how he's got it running in this next lifetime. But what I do know is Paul will go through the similar events. So it's like the demons that were on the people that got at Paul are going to be around Paul now. Maybe not necessarily. Like, I'll give you one example. Apostle Paul was beheaded by Nero. Nero is back here, he's Trump. So if Apostle Paul is back here, will he get beheaded by Trump? Not necessarily. He might not even be anywhere near Donald Trump. So we don't think that's a likelihood. But Paul went through certain issues, and the spirits on the people around him, whoever they were at the time that created those issues, they will be close by to him today. Those same demons. Don't forget, the demon says, Yahushua I know, Apostle Paul I know, who the fuck are you? I'm reading in the NLT because I'm just trying to extrapolate the order of events. And like I said, we all do it. You'll read about Job, read about what he lost, and he still kept his integrity, his faith and everything else with it. And we're not all Job. but we look at it and we try and take comparisons of it. Job is out there somewhere, maybe, losing a lot, going through the same scenario yet again or something. But we all have that type of thought. So obviously, going through my particular events, only natural, just like anyone else, I'm going to try to mirror them with the scriptures and see if you can pull some understanding out of it. You understand what's happening within you, around you. That's the world you live in. Then you understand the truth. That's the second world you live in at the same time. But then we also go to the scriptures, because those prophets walking in the footsteps of the prophets, they're actually out there walking in their own footsteps. It's just we don't know, nobody knows who's who, the hopeful elect. But obviously we still look at and try to mirror. That's what I'm trying to do. But I wanted to start at 23 really, but going back to 22, Apostle Paul pretty much creates an uproar by bringing in Gentiles into the Jewish council, and obviously with that, he creates an uproar. He's pretty much about to get jacked up, and then obviously the Roman commander steps in. So Acts 22 and 24 says the commander brought Paul inside and ordered him lashed with whips to make him confess his crime. He wanted to find out why the crowd had become so furious. So that's obviously starting from there, really, a sequence of events. It says when they tied Paul down to lash him, and again, when I think of mirror it, so this is what I'm apparently keep getting told. I'm causing problems, and I'm like, what problems? But now I found out by looking at certain things, it's a setup. So the commander brought Paul inside and ordered him lashed with whips to make him confess his crime. He wanted to find out why the crowd had become so furious. When they tied Paul down to lash him, Paul said to the officer standing there, "Is it legal for you to whip a Roman citizen who hasn't even been tried?" Because when the officer heard this, he went to the commander and asked, "Why are you doing this? This man is Roman citizen." So the commander went over to ask Paul, "Tell me, are you a Roman citizen?" "Yes, I certainly am," Paul said. "I am too," the commander muttered, "and it cost me plenty because you could buy your citizenship." Just like nowadays, you've got a citizen in America and you'll say, "Yeah, I'm born here, America's the greatest country in the world." But then you have a citizen of America, which had to apply for paperwork. And he says, "Yes, I'm from America," but he's been living there 6 months. So the commander went over to ask Paul, "Tell me, are you a citizen?" "Yes, I certainly am," Paul replied. "I am too," the commander muttered, "and it cost me plenty." Paul answered, "But I am a citizen by birth." So the soldiers who were about to interrogate Paul quickly withdrew when they heard he was a Roman citizen, and the commander was frightened when he had ordered him bound and whipped. So Paul before the high council. The next day the commander ordered the leading priests to session with the Jewish high council. He wanted to find out what the trouble was all about, so he released Paul to have him stand before them. So the commander was kind of trying to do the right thing. Ultimately, he saw a problem, he stepped in like he thought he should, and then he realized who Paul was, a citizen, and he said, "No, actually, we have to kind of work this out properly." So line manager, was there something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. But anyway, yeah. So next chapter, 23. Gazing intently at the high council, Paul began, "Brothers, I have always lived before the Most High with a clear conscience." Instantly, Ananias the high priest commanded those close to Paul to slap him on the mouth. Paul said to him, "The Most High will slap you, you corrupt hypocrite. What kind of judge are you to break the law yourself by ordering me struck like that?" Those standing near Paul said to him, "Do you dare to insult the Most High's high priest?" "Oh, I'm sorry, brothers. I didn't realize he was the high priest," Paul replied, "for the scriptures say you must not speak evil of any of your rulers." Paul realized that some members of the high council were Sadducees and some were Pharisees. So he's trying to explain himself. He's caused this uproar. And it says here, so he shouted, "Brothers, I am a Pharisee, as were my ancestors, and I'm on trial because my hope is in the resurrection of the dead." It says this divided the council, the Pharisees against the Sadducees. It says, "For the Sadducees say there is no resurrection or angels or spirits, but the Pharisees believe in all of these." So there was a great uproar. Some of the teachers of religious law, who were Pharisees, jumped up and began to argue forcefully. "We see nothing wrong with him," they shouted. "Perhaps a spirit or an angel spoke to him." So, some people, they're like, "Yep, there's nothing wrong with him. Just allow him," basically. It says here, as the conflict grew more violent, the commander was afraid they would tear Paul apart. So he ordered his soldiers to go and rescue by force and take him back to the fortress. The commander's a line manager. It says, that night the Lord appeared to Paul and said, "Be encouraged, Paul. Just as you have been a witness to me here in Jerusalem, you must preach the good news in Rome as well." So you have the plan to kill Paul. So this is the people you're working with who, like I say, you don't go to work to make friends. Don't get it twisted. You go to work, and you leave and you go home. But when you're at work, you have a team. So you're supposed to work together. If your job is to be part of a football team, you have to work together. Sometimes you'll see a football team and they'll start the game and one of the players is not with it. So what the other players do, they'll clap their hands and say, "Wake up, come on, get with it." And that's what they're supposed to do. That's how a team works, and they're supposed to function in a certain way. And you're supposed to, like I say, you don't go to work to be best friends with people, but you kind of obviously doing the job on the same side of the desk. The last people you would expect to be the ones creating the problems. I mean, that's dark, getting people to come in at your particular station and kick off and cause trouble. And while they're sitting next to you, but they've got these people to come in, so they know who they are. But at the time, I'm sitting there thinking some random random person, random man, random woman, whatever, come in. So the plan to kill Paul says the next morning, a group of Jews got together and bound themselves with an oath not to eat or drink until they had killed Paul. It says here there were more than 40 of them in the conspiracy. They went to the leading priests and elders and told them, "We have bound ourselves with an oath to eat nothing until we have killed Paul. So you and the high council should ask the commander, bring Paul back to the council again. Pretend you want to examine his case more fully. We will kill him on his way." So they're being conniving. It says, but Paul's nephew, his sister's son, heard of their plan and went to the fortress and told Paul. Paul called for one of the Roman officers and said, "Take this young man to the commander. He has something important to tell him." So the officer did, explaining, "Paul, the prisoner, called me over and asked me to bring this young man to you because he has something to tell you." The commander took his hand, led him aside and asked, "What is it you want to tell me?" Paul's nephew told him, "Some Jews are going to ask you to bring Paul before the high council tomorrow, pretending they want to get some more information. But don't do it. There are more than 40 men hiding along the way, ready to ambush him. They have vowed not to eat or drink anything until they have killed him. They are now ready, just waiting for your consent. Don't let anyone know you told me this," the commander warned the young man. And I explained this to my line manager in December. I said, there's something not right. And because the way I'm sitting in one particular seat, and the way I'm seeing these events come at me, and she's going, nah, it's cool. And I'm going, nah, something's not right. And she's going, don't worry, we'll do this, do that, and blah, 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 and X, Y, Z. But, I knew whatever she was trying to do, it was way beyond. Something was gonna happen that was way beyond. Says, don't let anyone know you told me this, the commander warned the young man. So the commander really is trying to do the right thing. Yeah, he got him locked up in the first place because obviously he caused the uproar. So he had to do something. That's his job. What are you going to do when there's people you got a riot? What are you going to do? You're going to find the source of it and cut it out to stop the riot. And then, he was about to whip him. Then he goes, no, wait a minute. We've got to treat this guy properly. And so, at that point, he's being treated properly. Look, you want to ambush him? Okay, now we're going to let you do that. We're going to do this thing properly. It says here, Paul is sent to Caesarea. Sorry, I always get that twisted. It says, then the commander called 2 of his officers and ordered, get 200 soldiers ready to leave for Caesarea at 9 o'clock tonight. Also, take 200 spearmen and 70 mounted troops. Provide horses for Paul to ride and get him safely to the governor Felix. It says, then he wrote this letter to the governor. It says, from Claudius Lysias to His Excellency Governor Felix, greetings. This man was seized by some Jews and they were about to kill him when I arrived with the troops. When I learned that he was a Roman citizen, I removed him to safety. Then I took him to their high council and tried to learn the basis of the accusations against him. I soon discovered the charge was something regarding their religious law, certainly nothing worth of imprisonment or death. Because he's just like, what the hell, what's this all about? But when I was informed of a plot to kill him, I immediately sent him on to you. I have told his accusers to bring their charges before you. So that night, as ordered, soldiers took Paul as far as Antipatris. They returned to the fortress the next morning while the mounted troops took him to Caesarea. When they arrived in Caesarea, they presented Paul and the letter to the governor Felix. He read it and was then asked Paul what province he was from. Sicilia. Paul answered, I will hear your case myself when your accusers arrive. The governor told him. Then the governor ordered him to be kept at prison at Herod's headquarters. Let's jump into... So 5 days later, Ananias, the high priest, arrived with some Jewish elders and the lawyer, Tertullus, to present their case against Paul the governor. So this is now going through the management system, pretty much HR. It says here, when Paul was called in, Tertullus presented the charges against Paul in the following address to the governor. You have provided a long period of peace for us Jews, and with the foresight have enacted reforms for us. For all of this, Your Excellency, we are very grateful to you. But I don't want to bore you, so please give me your attention for only a moment. We have found this man to be a troublemaker who is constantly stirring up riots among the Jews all over the world. He is a ringleader of the cult known as the Nazarenes. Furthermore, he was trying to desecrate the temple when we arrested him. And you go to the footnote and, I'll just read it quickly. It's not really that important. Manuscripts added an expanded conclusion to verse 6, all of verse 7, and an additional phrase in 8. We would have judged him by our law, but Lysias, the commander of the garrison, the line manager, came and violently took him away from us, commanding his accusers to come before you. You got to follow the procedures, man. But yeah, where was I? Yeah, so says here, you can find out the truth of our accusations by examining him yourself. Then the other Jews chimed in, declaring that everything Tertullus said was true. Because, yeah, everybody got a fucking opinion, haven't they? It says, the governor then mentioned for Paul to speak. Paul said, I know, sir, that you have been a judge of Jewish affairs for many years, so I gladly present my defense before you. You can quickly discover that I arrived in Jerusalem no more than 12 days ago at worship at the temple. My accusers never found me arguing with anyone in the temple, nor stirring up a riot in any synagogue or on the streets of the city. These men cannot prove the things they accuse me of doing, but I admit that I follow the way, which they call a cult. I worship the Most High of our ancestors, and I firmly believe the Jewish law and everything written in the prophets. I have the same hope in the Most High that these men have, that he will raise both the righteous and the unrighteous. Because of this, I always try to remain a clear conscience before the Most High and all people. After several years away, I returned to Jerusalem with money to aid my people and offer sacrifices to the Most High. My accusers saw me in the temple, and I was completing a purification ceremony. There was no crowd around me and no rioting. But some of the Jews from the province of Asia were there, and they ought to be here to bring charges if they have anything against me. Ask these men here what crimes the Jewish High Council found me guilty of, except for the one time I shouted, I am on trial before you today because I believe in the resurrection of the dead. At that point, Felix was quite familiar with the way, adjourned the hearing and said, wait until Lysias, the garrison commander, arrives, then I will decide the case. And so, in this scenario that I went through, this is what I was trying to explain, from June to January, basically June to December, whatever. All of a sudden, these people just started turning up, and these issues started coming, and then and I, you know what, so I was trying to remember it, because this is not something that you study. It's just coming off the top of my head, and the more I read it, then every time I read it, I tend to bounce through it, and it pops up. So, at that point, what it was, I was presented with this issue, if you like, and the issue, what happened? My line manager tried to do the defending, and the next manager got in the way and said, "No, hang on a minute." So that next manager is pretty much Felix. That not the spirit of, but the demon that was doing the work within the mind of Felix. That's the same demon on on another manager, which is above my line manager. And so what that person's done is gone, oh, but look, I can see this thing and this thing and this thing, and what it is, she's new. So I'm saying to her, look, you're new. You don't know what happened with those situations. I know when you read it on paper, it seems like this, but look, there was something, it was dealt with every time. And all the other managers that were here, there was, like, you got one line manager, you got this other manager that you replace. They understand what's happened, but you don't. You've come in, you're looking at this list of events, and you think but obviously, even in my head, I was thinking, shit, why is all this happening? So she's going, it's not right, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, look, I'm trying to explain to her, I haven't done anything. And it got to a point where, like, I had that complaint where I had a guy coming in, kicking off, trying to fight me, basically. I was like, what's wrong with you? His name's Bilal. And then he makes the complaint that I threatened him and all this kind of stuff. Then this other, she came in and said I was discriminatory to her. All I said was, can I help you, madam? And because she wants to be called he, but I don't know that. She fucking went ballistic, fucking screamed down the whole place, went nutty in the place, and I'm just like, why are you even doing this? And then wrote this big letter how I was discriminated, and I'm just like, no, all I said was, can I help you, madam? And then there was like this other, like I said, there's another woman came in, one of them women that thinks they're men. Wasn't right in her eye the way she was watching me. She came over to the desk. She was just all ready for a fight. She asked a question. She kind of looked at my colleague. They looked at each other, but then nothing was said. And she looked at me, so I answered the question that she'd asked, and then she went ballistic again. Like I say now, when I read the thing the other day, and I read the paperwork, I've clocked that the one kicking off knew the one sitting next to me. So I'm like, so you got to come in and do that. And then there was one more, fourth, final one. Anonymous. A fucking anonymous complaint. Apparently, anonymous complaint from a member of staff who said that you swore 5 times to a patient. And I said, does that even fucking sound realistic? That you're going to be standing at work. You might swear once. You're going to swear 5 times at someone. Go, what? Fuck off, fuck this, fuck that, fuck that. That's 5 times. You're not in amongst all these other words. As if I had this big rant. And I told them, look, read the way the fucking complaint is written and the common words in there. There's only one person in here that speaks like that. No, I can't it's they're not seeing it. And you're like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Then I told them, look, you've got everything on a database. Everyone that came in here, you've got their phone number. Ring them all and ask them if I spoke to them like that. You've got a CCTV. Go and look at it. You've got the date, the time, go and look at it. Apparently this thing happened. Go and get the fucking CCTV. Look at it and see if you had anybody approach me with this issue. So at that point, I'm thinking, I can bash this thing off because this is silly. All these list of complaints. So when I get approached with the Felix character, I'm going, look, I should really walk from this because you're presenting this to me, but you're not really understanding the picture. But yeah, at that point, Felix, who was quite familiar with the way, adjourned the hearing and said, wait until Lysias, the garrison commander, arrives, then I will decide the case. He ordered an officer to keep Paul in custody to keep him some freedom and allow his friends to visit him and take care of his needs. A few days later, Felix came back to his wife Drusilla and who was Jewish, sending for Paul. They listened to him as he told them about the faith and Yahushua, the anointed. It says, as he reasoned with them about righteousness and self-control and the coming day of judgment, Felix became frightened. Go away for now, he replied. And when it is more convenient, I'll call for you again. Nobody ever wants to hear about the end. Even in this time now. They all want to hear about there being an Israelite, but when you say, everything's about to collapse, no. He also hoped that Paul would bribe him, so he sent for him quite often and talked with him. Because they said, we'll go through this action. We'll put you on this action plan. We'll put you on this action plan. And can you go 6 months without another complaint? And I said, well, how? If people are just walking in and fucking going ballistic over nothing. I can't guarantee that. And then that's when they want to send you to HR. And, I could have dealt with it differently, but at the end of the day, Spirit puts you on the way that it puts it onto you. But I'm being straight, and I'm looking at it going, what's this about? Like, you can't do nothing to me over this. And then when she's going on about HR, I'm going, all right then. And I'm telling her, go back to the line manager and see what, Nah, I think I'm going to send it to HR because, this, that and the other. And then after 2 years went by, in this way, Felix was succeeded by Porcius Festus and became Felix. And because Felix wanted to gain favour with the Jewish people, he left Paul in prison. So this has been suspended, you see, with the HR. It all goes up to HR, X, Y, and Z. Paul appears before Festus. 3 days after Festus arrived in Caesarea to take over the new responsibility, he left for Jerusalem. I think Festus is the director, because when it goes to HR, then the director is the next one that contacts you of the department and says, because we've got this situation, this investigation going on, we're going to suspend you. And that's when you're just sitting in your what they call it, the home prison, the house arrest. if you like. Suspended is like, you know, to a certain degree being on house arrest, because it's like, no, you're secluded there. Well, you're not secluded here, but, you know, they kind of don't want you to come over there. 3 days after Festus arrived in Caesarea to take over his new responsibilities, he left for Jerusalem, where the leading priests and other Jewish leaders met with him and made their accusations against Paul. So you see, the director suspends you, and then goes to listen to all these things, these so-called complaints. So they asked Festus as a favour to transfer Paul to Jerusalem, planning to ambush and kill him on the way. You see how devious these people are. They can't just leave it alone. But Festus replied, you know, why can't you just let him go through the court system? But no, they want to do it themselves. So, but Festus replied that Paul was at Caesarea and he himself would be returning there soon. So he said, those of you in authority can return with me. If Paul has done anything wrong, you can make your accusations. About 8 or 10 days later, Festus returned to Caesarea, and on the following day he took a seat in court and ordered Paul to be brought in. So you see now the investigation, because what happens, the director brings in the investigator, independent investigator, who fucking goes around and asks everybody their opinion. What fucking baffles me is how come I get to be told you're suspended and you can't contact anybody, so I go home, but then all these other witnesses that they go to, they're allowed to fucking talk to each other in between giving their statements. And like I say, like I've come together, now I've realised there's a bunch of them working together. That makes sense. Anyway, about 8 or 10 days later, Festus returned to Caesarea, and on the following day, he took a seat in the court and ordered Paul to be brought in. When Paul arrived, the Jewish leaders from Jerusalem gathered around and made many serious accusations they couldn't prove. Paul denied the charges, and I'm not guilty of any crime against the Jewish laws, or the temple, or the Roman government, he said. Then Festus, wanting to please the Jews, asked him, are you willing to go to Jerusalem and stand trial before me there? Paul replied, no, this is the official Roman court, so I ought to be tried right here. You know very well I am not guilty of harming the Jews. I have done something worthy of death. I don't refuse to die, but if I am innocent, if I have done something worthy of death, I don't refuse to die. But if I am innocent, no one has the right to turn me over to these men to kill me. I appeal to Caesar. Festus conferred with the advisor and then replied, very well, you have appealed to Caesar, and to Caesar you will go. A few days later, King Agrippa arrived with his sister Bernice to pay their respects to Festus. So I think because Festus was the director, Agrippa is the investigator called in by the director, because the director gets the complaint, goes to HR, gets suspended, then goes around, sees all the issues. Okay, there's a bit of an issue. It's not something you can just open a shut case. Then call an investigator in, and so that's represents Agrippa. Arrived with his sister Bernice to pay their respects to Festus. During their stay of several days, Festus discussed Paul's case with the king. There is a prisoner here, he told him, whose case was left for me by Felix. When I was in Jerusalem, the leading priests and Jewish elders pressed charges against him and asked me to condemn him. I pointed out to them that Roman law does not convict people without trial. They must be given an opportunity to confront their accusers and defend themselves. But you see, the Jews know that at a trial he'll survive. That's why they keep wanting to ambush him, these conniving punks. It says, when his accusers came here for the trial, I didn't delay. I called the case, and the very next day and ordered Paul be brought in. But the accusations made against him weren't any of the crimes I expected. Instead, it was something about their religion and a dead man named Yahushai, whose Paul insists is alive. Because to them, they're baffed. They're like, what the I was at a loss to know how to investigate these things. So I asked him whether he would be willing to stand trial on these charges in Jerusalem. I'm still laughing at what they say. Because they're just baffed. They're like, these people are arguing over some guy who's died. They got obviously they're not supposed to because they're not Israelites, but they got no faith. So they're just like, what's this? What are these people arguing about? And you actually check the logic of it. You know, it makes perfect sense. But it says here, but Paul appealed to have his case decided by the emperor. So I ordered that he be held in custody until I could arrange to send him to Caesar. I'd like to hear the man myself, Agrippa said, and Festus replied, you will tomorrow. So the next day, Agrippa and Bernice arrived at the auditorium with great pomp, accompanied by military officers and the prominent men of the city. So what happens, the investigator comes, but they come with the HR person next to them. And so any word you say, when they do the investigation, they come to you, they'll try and catch you out on it. So even in that conversation, you've got to be very careful in how you say it. But without, I mean, I could go into more detail, but I'll leave it there. So it says the next day, Agrippa and Bernice arrived at the auditorium with great pomp, accompanied by military officers, prominent men of the city. Festus ordered Paul to be brought in. And Festus said, King Agrippa, and all who are here, this is the man whose death is demanded by all the Jews, both here and in Jerusalem. But in my opinion, he has done nothing wrong, deserving death. However, since he appealed his case to the emperor, I've decided to send him to Rome. But what shall I write the emperor? Who's there? For there is no clear charge against him. So I've brought him before you all, and especially you, King Agrippa, so that after we examine him, the investigator, I have something to write. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. You don't have to believe me, but I got a folder with a whole bunch of people's statements, and I've seen the sequence of events, and I've put it all together, and these people are trying to set me up, apart from my line manager. And it's too many, you know, what, like you watch a so-called conspiracy thing, 9/11, there's too many coincidences. There's no such thing as a coincidence, but, you know, what you would call that is too many of that. So they want to, they know they got nothing against him, but they want to examine him. I might have something to write. So they need to make something to show. That's a setup. It says, for it makes no sense to send a prisoner to the emperor without specifying the charges against him. And again, see, when it goes back to examining him, maybe they get, like, you know, they try to do the fair thing. They get these opinions, these statements, but people, they're, you know, these so-called witnesses are chatting to each other, saying, yeah, we'll say this, we'll say that. When we write our statements, you say that, we'll do that, and we'll accuse him of that, and we'll accuse him of that, and they'll get rid of him, and we'll get all his overtime. It says, but it makes no sense to spend a prisoner to the charges against him. What's this? Acts 25, 26, 27, 28, and 13. Acts 26 and 1. Then Agrippa said to Paul, you may speak in your defense. So Paul, gesturing with his hands, started his defense. I am fortunate, King Agrippa, that you are the one hearing my defense today against all these accusations made by the Jewish leaders. I was quite happy when the investigator came in, because I thought, you know what, this is like somebody just outside of that whole fucking circle, just hear what I got to say, and it's got to make sense. You know, you're telling me that I swore at someone 5 times, find it on the CCTV, ring everybody that came here on that day and find the person, but you can't. And I said that in the thing, but I said, but you do deny it. I said, I deny it. I said, you can't find evidence to present again. All you've got is to ask me if I did it. So what's that about? You ask me if I did it and present some evidence and shut me down, but you can't. And I didn't say it like that, like I'm talking to her like whatever, but, you know, I'm kind of saying it nicely. It says, I am fortunate, King Agrippa. So you, at the point you think, you know what? You at the beginning you think, yeah, this is going to work. And like I say, I gave my thing. I sat at home for another 4 months. I waited. They hit me up on the Day of Atonement. The day after, they sent me the file for all the statements before the disciplinary. And you look at it, And I go, you dumb fucking bitch. You didn't get it. You know, I thought that she'd go off and get it and see it, but when you look at, then realize what other witnesses who have talked to each other, then written their statements, that you lot are dumb, man. You fucking you. This is what's making me so angry, right? It's the fact that you know what's right, but yet the people that are so wrong are able. It's like they get to win, because you think to yourself, they kind of had this plan, and they get to pull it off, and then these dummies over here who are supposed to be like fair-minded and, you know, applying to, you know, policies and regulation, they try to do things fair and by the book, and they still can't see this shit. And it's like, are you fucking dumb? And then what happens is, this happens in many situations, wherever, all over the world, every day. And then you get this innocent dude who's just got to fuck off and go and start again somewhere else. Every time. This is the curses. See, what it is, I went through this kind of shit just like you did, all through my life. And then you think, oh, it's the curses, yeah. You get it now, you know, now you work it out. Oh, now I get it. Yeah, okay, cool. But then, like I say, at this particular moment, I'm looking at three, when I say parallel lifetimes. But it fucking gets on your nerves, man, that these people are allowed to get away with the shit that they get away with. You know, one of them statements is some fucking ugly, like Daffy Duck bitch, and she's basically trying to make out that I was trying to like move to her because she didn't. I was just saying all these. You know what? I won't touch you with a barge pole, man. You got 4 kids. How wide is your thing, man? Must be loose as anything. I don't want you. You know, I'm into the scriptures. I understand what a clean woman is and an unclean woman. I'm fortunate enough to have a clean woman. So why am I going to be looking at these other dusty women on the street? But then you want to accuse me of being after you, and then make out that you're this innocent, like, oh no, he's just harassing me. And then what happens, because these fucking people are women, the next job I find, I'm trying to find where men are, or on my own. But, because when you do these admin jobs, you're in a comfortable place, you're indoors, you know, you've got nice clean set of clothes on, but you're surrounded by women, and they just all got some demon on their brain. And then, yeah. So then you want to accuse me of that shit, and I'm looking at you just like, what the fuck? But it is what it is. This is what gets me, man. But it's cool, you know. We know what it is we know the long run. We know the big picture. It's all going to switch around very soon anyway. But like I say, it's still going to fucking get you mad. And like I said at the beginning, at some point you have a crossover period. At some point, you know, the standard will be lifted. And so it gets you to that point, you know, you start throwing up these curses. You think, you know what, I'm going to do these people. What power do I have to get you back? I'll tell you what, I have a weapon, the unreturnable weapon. This is curses. You cannot return it. But yeah, moving on. It says, for now, you are an expert on all Jewish customs and controversies. Now please listen to me patiently. As the Jewish leaders are well aware, I was given a thorough Jewish training from my earliest childhood among my own people and in Jerusalem. If they would admit it, they know that I have been a member of the Pharisees, the strictest sect of our religion. Now I am on trial because of my hope in the fulfillment of the Most High's promise made to our ancestors. You know, he's pretty much talking about Deuteronomy 18, you know, the fact that Moses, you know, through Most High through Moses told us that he will send us a prophet. You know, there's many prophets out here, but we come in the spirit of Yahushua. Yahushua is that top prophet that was sent to pretty much save us. In fact, that is why the 12 tribes of Israel zealously worship the Most High night and day, and they share the same hope I have. Yet, Your Majesty, they accuse me for having this hope. Why does it seem incredible to any of you that the Most High can raise the dead? I used to believe that I ought to do everything I could to oppose the very name of Yahushua, the Nazarene. Obviously, Apostle Paul was converted. It says, indeed, I did just that in Jerusalem. Authorized by the leading priests, I caused many believers there to be sent to prison, that I cast my vote against them, that they were condemned to death. And it's like now, even in this time now, I'd say to people, look, when I was young, I would just like get into altercations all the time, but you get to like the age of 40 plus, you just kind of, you're not really like that anymore. But people still give you that tag, like, oh yeah, he's just causing problems. It's like, come on, man. But it falls into line with it. It says, many times I had them punished in the synagogues to get them to curse Yahushua. I was so violently opposed to them that I even chased them down in foreign cities. One day I was on such a mission to Damascus, armed with the authority and commission of the leading priests. About noon, Your Majesty, as I was on the road, a light from heaven, brighter than the sun, shone down on me and my companions. We all fell down, and I heard a voice saying to me in Aramaic, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is useless for you to fight against my will, or kick against pricks. Who are you, Lord? I asked. And the Lord replied, I am Yahushua, the one you are persecuting. Now get to your feet, for I have appeared to you to appoint you as my servant and witness. And you are to tell the world what you have seen and what I will show you in the future. And I will rescue you from both your own people and the Gentiles. Yes, I am sending you to the Gentiles. So open their eyes, so they may turn from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God. Then they will receive forgiveness for their sins and will be given a place among the Most High's people who are set apart by faith in me. And so, King Agrippa, I obeyed that vision from heaven. I preached first to those in Damascus, then in Jerusalem and throughout all Judea, and also to the Gentiles, that all must repent of their sins and turn to the Most High, and prove they have changed by the good things they do. Some Jews arrested me in the temple for preaching this, and they tried to kill me. But the Most High who protected me right up to this present time, so I can testify to everyone. From the least to the greatest, I teach nothing except what the prophets and Moses said would happen. That the Messiah would suffer and be the first to rise from the dead, and in this way announce the Most High's light to Jews and Gentiles alike. Suddenly Festus shouted, Paul, you are insane. Too much study has made you crazy. It says, but Paul replied, I am not insane, most excellent Festus. What I am saying is the sober truth. And King Agrippa King Agrippa knows about these things. I speak boldly, for I am sure these events are all familiar to him, for they were not done in a corner. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you do. Agrippa interrupted him. Do you think you can persuade me to become a Christian so quickly? Paul replied, whether quickly or not, I pray to the Most High that both you and everyone here in this audience might become the same as I am, except for these chains, because obviously he was chained up. Then the king, the governor, Bernice, and all the others stood and left. As they went out, they talked it over and agreed, this man hasn't done anything to deserve death or imprisonment. And Agrippa said to Festus he could have been set free if he hadn't appealed to Caesar. Says, when the time came, he was set sail for Italy. Paul and several other prisoners were placed in the custody of a Roman officer named Julius and a captain of the imperial regiment. Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was also with us. We left on the ship, whose home port was Adramyttium, on the northwest coast of the province of Asia. It was scheduled to make several stops at ports along the coast of the province. The next day, when he docked at Sidon, Julius was very kind to Paul and let him go ashore to visit with friends so they could provide for his needs. Sorry, I got this fly just so they could provide for his needs. Putting out to sea from there, we encountered strong headwinds that made it difficult to keep the ship on course. So we sailed north of Cyprus, between the island and the mainland. Keeping on the open sea, we passed along the coast of Cilicia and Pamphylia, landing at Myra in the province of Lycia. The commanding officer found an Egyptian ship from Alexandria that was bound for Italy, and he put us on board. We had several days of slow sailing, and after great difficulty, we finally neared Cyndius. But the wind was against us, so we sailed across to Crete and along the sheltered coast of the island, past the Cape of Salmone. We struggled along the coast with great difficulty and finally arrived at Fair Havens, near the town of Lasea. We had lost a lot of time. The weather was becoming dangerous for sea travel because it was so late in the fall. And Paul spoke to the ship's officers about it. Says him. So we're in. I believe we're in that time now. We're coming. Yeah, the fall, September. Men, he said, I believe there is trouble ahead if we go on. Shipwreck, loss of cargo, and danger of our lives as well. You see, like for example, like the fact that it's the fall, and as I'm reading it, this is the only way I work it out, because when I do it, and then I read it, and then that's how I end up naming. I can pick the people out and mirror certain things. It says, but the officer in charge of the prisoners listened more to the ship's captain and the owner than Paul. Paul was basically saying, you need to be careful. We're going to be shipwrecked, but they weren't having it. It says, and since Fair Havens was an exposed harbour, a poor place to spend the winter, most of the crew wanted to go on to Phoenix, farther up the coast of Crete, and spend the winter there. Phoenix was a good harbour with only a southwest and northwest exposure. The storm at sea. And so this is where I am. If you notice, I got a cold. I didn't plan the cold. But when you're on a ship and then you've got a storm, and then you end up getting shipwrecked, the chances are you're going to get cold. See, I'm in this period now where they want to take me to this disciplinary next week, but I do have a plan up my sleeve to delay it. See, they want to take me to the disciplinary. I've looked at the situation. I could go there and try and defend it. Kind of had enough. I need to bounce, but I need space to find something. This guy with the tent, he might call me back. I don't know. And then so what I need to do is I need to push that date back because I need to keep getting paid, and so because I need to pay the bills. At least, before I read this, I was thinking to myself on Saturday, I need space because I had to work this all out and plan it all out. I need at least 3 months space, probably, maybe less, but kind of aim for that and see where it goes. You can get up to 6 months full sick pay, and after that it goes to half. So if I can get something from my doctor to say that, I have the MH, something's not right in the brain. You only got to do that by saying, I've got anxiety and this, that, and the other. So I need to take that and present that, which I'm actually going to do in the morning, because I had to go and get the appointment and do this and do that. And the thing is, everything's confidential. So you can slip through this system quite easily if you know these things are confidential. So all you do is you ring the doctor, you say, I'll join the thing, the person to talk to. Oh, because I've got this problem and that problem, and it's all going downhill. Oh, yeah, no, sorry. Oh, do you know what? Let me write you a note. So they give you the note. You take it to work. You're off work. So what I'm looking to do is hit them up with that. Lord willing, in the morning. Lord willing, that delays it, because if they go ahead with the disciplinary without me, and I'm getting exclamation mark treatment, then I could sue them. I might struggle initially, paying the bills, but I'd sue them, and they know that. So that's why you have to get that. When you get it's all government guidelines. So I need to present that, and they have to delay it. And even though I know at the end of the journey, they're going to try and cut my head off in terms of cut me from the organisation, that's cool. But all I need is a little delay. And so what the Most High does here for Apostle Paul is he creates a delay. Basically, at this point, Paul's done for. He goes to Rome, and his head gets chopped off eventually. There's a story to it. Obviously, we'll go through it, but there's the Most High makes everything happen. So he made that happen to create a delay, and you'll see, I believe, if my memory serves me right, while the delay happens, he gets to preach the word a little bit more. So there's a little bit more life left in it. But ultimately, at this point, what you got to realise is the way, Paul thinks he's got a chance. There's a possible chance there. That's why he said, take me to Caesar. But really looking at it in this scenario now, and Paul as well, it didn't work out. So I don't think it's going to work out again. That's why you've got to be clever the second time round and go, well, let me delay it and use the delay to move somewhere else. So even when you cut me, it won't actually kill me. So the storm at sea, I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's in between the lines. I'm not opening up my video to the masses by doing that, but how many times are you going to be able to hear a breakdown like that, like this? It says, when a light wind began blowing from the south, sailors throughout thought they could make it, so they pulled up anchor and sailed close to the shore of Crete. But the weather changed abruptly. It's Al-Shaja, and a wind of typhoon strength called the Northeaster burst across the island and blew us out to sea. The sailors couldn't turn the ship into the wind, so they gave up and let it run before the gale. We sailed along the sheltered side of a small island named Koda, where with great difficulty we hoisted aboard the lifeboat being towed behind us. When the sailors bound the ropes around the hull to the ships to strengthen it, they were afraid of being driven across to the sandbars of Cyprus, or whatever that is, off the African coast. So they lowered the sea anchor to slow the ship and were driven before the wind. The next day, as gale force winds continued to batter the ship, the crew began throwing the cargo overboard. The following day, they even took some of the ship's gear and threw it overboard. The terrible storm raged for many days, blotting out the sun and the stars until at last all hope was gone. No one had eaten for a long time. Finally, Paul called the crew together and said, "Men, you should have listened to me in the first place and not left Crete. You would have avoided all this damage and loss." He says, "But take courage. None of you will lose your lives, even though the ships will go down." And that's kind of how if I can get this delay, like I said, things run in sequence, but then there's slight differences. Look at the jailer, and then so there's similarities, but there's differences. I'm trying to get the delay, and at the same time, obviously, that's to stop my ship going down, my personal ship. But I'm in that moment where the ship goes down with the storm, which actually buys me the delay from them doing the cutting. Yes, for last night an angel of the Most High to whom I belong and whom I serve stood beside me, and he said, "Don't be afraid, Paul, for you will surely stand trial before Caesar. What's more, the, the Most High in his goodness has granted safety to everyone sailing with you. So take courage, for I believe the Most High, it will be just as he said, and we will be shipwrecked on an island." Okay, the shipwreck, Acts 27:27. About midnight on the 14th night of the storm, as we were being driven across the sea of Ardea, the sailors sensed land was near. They dropped a weighed line and found that the water was only 120 feet deep. But a little later, they measured again and found it was only 90 feet deep. At this rate, they were afraid we would soon be driven against the rocks along the shore. So they threw out 4 anchors from the back of the ship and prayed for daylight. Then the sailors tried to abandon the ship. Then the sailors tried to abandon the ship. They lowered the lifeboat as though they were going to put out anchors from the front of the ship. But Paul said to the commanding officer and soldiers, "You will all die unless the sailors stay aboard." So the soldiers cut the rope to the lifeboat and let it drift away. Just as day was dawning, Paul urged everyone to eat. "You have been so worried that you haven't touched food for 2 weeks," he said. "Please eat something now for your own good, for not a hair of your heads will perish." Then he took some bread, gave thanks to the Most High before them all, and broke off a piece and ate it. Then everyone was encouraged and began to eat. All 276 of us who were on board. After eating, the crew lighted the ship further by throwing the cargo of wheat overboard. When morning dawned, they didn't recognize the coastline, but they saw a bay with a beach and wondered if they could get to shore by running the ship aground. So they cut off the anchors and left them in the sea. Then they lowered the rudders, raised the foresail, and headed towards shore. But they hit a shoal and ran the ship aground too soon. The bow of the ship stuck fast, while the stem was repeatedly smashed by the force of the waves and began to break apart. The soldiers wanted to kill the prisoners to make sure they didn't swim ashore and escape, but the commanding officer wanted to spare Paul, so he didn't let them carry out their plan. Then he ordered all who could swim to jump overboard first and make for land. The others held onto planks of debris from the broken ship, so everyone escaped safely to shore. And once we were safe on shore, we learned that we were on the island of Malta. The people of Ireland were very kind to us. It was cold and rainy, so they built a fire on the shore to welcome us. And Paul gathered an armful of sticks and was laying them on the fire. A poisonous snake, driven out by the heat, bit him on the hand. It says the people of the island saw it hanging from his hand and said to each other, "A murderer, no doubt. Though he escaped the sea, justice will not permit him to live." But Paul shook off the snake into the fire and was unharmed. The people waited for him to swell up or suddenly drop dead. But when they had waited a long time and saw he wasn't harmed, they changed their minds and decided he was a god, he was a power, he's of the Most High, he had power, spiritual power. It says near the shore where he landed was an estate belonging to Publius, the chief official of the island. He welcomed us and treated us kindly for 3 days. So that hand, it doesn't tell you. It says, it doesn't tell you left or right, does it? Paul gathered an armful of sticks laid on the fire, so it's bit him on the hand. I'd say it's going to be left. I'd say left. It has to be the left. Now, where did I finish? Yeah, as it happened, Publius' father was ill with fever and dysentery. Paul went in and prayed for him, and laying his hands on him, he healed him. Then all the other sick people on the island came and were healed. As a result, we were showered with honors, and when the time came to sail, people supplied us with everything we would need for the trip. So you think then, so these people then become believers. You know, you got healed. You know, he's not going to go around healing Edomites and Moabites. Obviously he's would have ended up healing Israelites. So they would have become believers. So there's a delay on his death, but in that delay, he's still able to do a little bit more work. So Paul arrives at Rome. So it was 3 months after the shipwreck that we set sail on another ship that had wintered at the island, an Alexandrian ship with the twin gods as its figurehead. And that's what I read this the other day, but I couldn't remember the 3 months, but that's what in my mind I came up with the idea that I need that. Lord willing, I need that maybe a couple of months. I could find something in a month or whatever, I don't know, but if I could buy myself at least 3 months, that's a nice little window. And then you go, like I say, I don't know what's in it. I can't remember every little detail in the scriptures at the top of my head, but when I read through it, I seem to be able to pinpoint all the relevant points. It was just there. It's there. What else can I say? It says, our first stop was Syracuse, where we stayed 3 days. From there, we sailed across to Rhegium. A day later, a south wind began blowing, so the following day we sailed up the coast to Puteoli. So there we found some believers who invited us to spend a week with them, so we came to Rome. So even those believers, they got their faith. Apostle Paul came, that would have obviously given them more faith, would have boosted it up. So that whole delay, he could have had his head chopped off, a long time before that. But, it's all a delay. Don't forget the Most High made it happen because he knows who Paul has to meet. There's certain people that Paul has to meet along the route. The brothers and sisters in Rome who had heard we were coming, and when they came to meet us at the Forum on the Appian Way, others joined us at the 3 taverns. When Paul saw them, he was encouraged and thanked the Most High. When we arrived in Rome, Paul was permitted to have his own private lodging, house arrest, though he was guarded by a soldier. Paul preaches at Rome under guard. 3 days after Paul's arrival, he called together the local Jewish leaders. He said to them, brothers, I was arrested in Jerusalem and handed over to the Roman government. Even though I had done nothing against our people or the customs of our ancestors. It says the Romans tried me and wanted to release me because they found no cause for the death sentence. But when the Jewish leaders protested the decision, I felt it necessary to appeal to Caesar, even though I had no desire to press charges against my own people. I asked you to come here today so we could get acquainted, and so I could explain to you that I am bound with this chain because I believe that the hope of Israel, the Messiah, has already come. They replied, we have had no letters from Judea or reports against you from anyone who has come here, but we want to hear what you believe, for the only thing we know about this movement is that it is denounced everywhere. So a time was set, and on the day a large number of people came to Paul's lodging. He explained and testified about the kingdom of the Most High and tried to persuade them about Yahushua from the scriptures. Using the law of Moses and the book of the prophets, he spoke to them from morning until evening. Some were persuaded by the things he said, but others did not believe. And after they had argued back and forth amongst themselves, they left with the final word from Paul. The Holy Spirit was right when he said to your ancestors through Isaiah the prophet, go and say to his people, when you hear what I say, you will not understand. When you see what I do, You will not comprehend. For the hearts of these people are hardened, and their ears cannot hear, and they have closed their eyes, and their eyes cannot see, and their ears cannot hear, and their hearts cannot understand, and they cannot turn to me and let me heal them. So I want you to know that this salvation from the Most High has also been offered to the Gentiles, and they will accept it. So for the next 2 years, Paul lived in Rome at his own expense. He welcomed all who visited him, boldly proclaiming the kingdom of the Most High and teaching about the Lord Yahushua the Anointed, and no one tried to stop him. Now I was going to go to Acts 13, but I'm, for the sake of time, I'm not going to. I mean, Apostle Paul, so he pretty much stayed on house arrest in Rome. People came to see him. Eventually, he was released. They couldn't, find no substantial charge against him. He stayed in Rome for a little bit more, so there was more time, before his inevitable death, that to give him a chance to preach the word of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. So again, the obviously it's all part of the Most High's plan. But then eventually Nero became in power, who today that would be what we refer to as Donald Trump. And he went to trial again, and then pretty much, cut a long story short, he got beheaded. Nero did it to please the Jews, but that's the long and the short of it. So like I say, you'll have events. It doesn't really matter, who you are, to be honest, whether you're a false prophet, just a normal member on the street, or whatever else. We've all been through these different lives, and they're very similar, but then there's slight differences. What you have to realize is we have never been able to obey the law 100% correctly, and if we did, we wouldn't die. Okay, so that's why Yahushua inevitably came. He was chosen to do what we couldn't do, which is live in the flesh, complete the law, if you don't understand what I mean by that, but they still put him to death. And so the fact that they did that, obviously the Most High would have had to take the spirit away from him for them to allow them to put him to death. Did that, then that saves us from our sins. So what does that mean? Inevitably, it means in the future we get waken up back to who we are, remembrance of, which is where we are now, and then we go to the kingdom of heaven to get changed, live perfectly according to the law, because it will be built into our DNA, into our spirit, and then we won't die. The other nations will still go through this process, but we won't. And when you look back at the entire time where we were unable to keep the law, what have we done? We've just gone round and round in the same circle. So you're born, you live, you inevitably sin, you die. So the Most High's got it's like a jump start on a car. He's got to jump start you again, go back into the world. Guess what? Which what he does? He's born, eventually sins, he dies. So that's why you keep going round in these similar events. But they're similar, but they're not similar. You're going to go through similar situations and scenarios. It's just that in an ancient world, you might have gone through it in a hot climate. Now you might go through it in a winter climate. Like I went through that pattern of events for Paul, tried to mirror it to the pattern of events of myself. You can see a sort of a sense of type of attitude of Paul, as if to say, well, if you're going to do what you're going to do it, but do it properly. You have on one side you have people who are supposed to be his people who are really going against him. You have the authorities, which is our captors, which we're still under now, and they're trying to work out what to do with him. Eventually they give in. That's the moral of the story. Eventually they give in to those requests, the lies, whatever else. And so it's inevitable what happens. But you can see how the events, that's more than a coincidence. It's The Most High makes you keep going round and round. So like I say, and then you think back to the Most High, with Moses, he pretty much just wanted to do away with us. Just, stuff. Do you know what? And when you think about it, it's because he made something. He made us. He made us to keep the law and to live forever. We're unable to do it. And all we do, every time he does us the favor of put you back here, you live, you sin, you die. So here we go. I've got to do it again for you. So, and we know we keep coming back third or fourth generation through our bloodlines. And that's why, if you've made something, but you realize it can't get past step one, you want to do away with it and rebuild it. That's what any normal, builder would do, whether you're building cars, houses, ships, whatever, bridges, whatever. So, obviously it's because of Yahweh Shai. It's a story set up that way, and obviously it's because of Yahweh Shai we have that opportunity. This time he'll change us, give us a not so fleshly body, a spiritual body, and we will keep it, and then we will live, and we will stop going in that ridiculous cycle of events, that painful cycle of events. I feel like I've been here before. You're tired in the flesh. You're tired of this shit, tired of the captivity, going around in this routine. Even if you've got money and you've got nice things around you, you still become tired of, the pretenses, the people, whatever, the lies. And then, but our spirits are tired, of this shit. Scriptures talk about the saints being worn out. And so, your spirit is constantly having to fight. You did it in ancient times, you did it now. How many, only the Most High knows. People say God knows. Well, yeah, only the Most High knows how many times you've done it in between now and then. So that's all we are. We're just stuck in a loop, and we're not getting past phase one, and it's because we keep sinning. And ultimately, the Most High at some point looked at us and thought, my creations, I've got to start it again. But no, through grace, and then through Yahweh Shai, through faith, we're given that chance again, and so we're coming to that point. So I was going to go to Acts chapter 13. I'm not really going to bother for the sake of time. I was just going to go to the point of Paul calling for the Most High to judge. He asked the Most High to judge. People say, throwing up curses, so on and so forth. Throwing up curses is not curse words. People get confused. The curse word is, F you, or this or that. That's one complete thing. But a curse is to, call on spiritual power and ask that spiritual power to enact its power upon something or someone in a divine interventional way. And, when you do it in the form of a curse, you're doing it to cause problems. Now, like I say, you do it when people really get you to that point, and that's pretty much what it's about. So we're going to get to that point. We throw up curses now. We all call ourselves a hopeful elect. At some point, the Most High will raise up a standard, and at that point, you have to realize, one of you out there, someone, whoever it may be, one of you is going to have to say, well, now, you'd say to yourself, I'm not hopeful anymore. I am this person. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to call on the Most High. This is Jacob's trouble, and you're going to see instant results in front of you. Like Isaiah. If I be a prophet of the Most High, may the Most High prove it to you now by judging these people. And you never know what's going to come out of heaven: fire, lightning, anything. So we're getting to that point. We're going to cross over into that point. So your mind has to kind of adjust, and at some point somebody's going to realize what I'm talking about. So I hope that was edifying. I know it was long, but that's the scenario. I hope it's edifying. I hope it makes people who really know what's going on understand, and then you might see similar things yourself. So I hope that's edifying. Until next time, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Rakah Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.